Hi everyone, I'm Richard Carlton. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. So everyone, welcome to an awesome day of FileMaker training. It's always a hack. It's a hack, as Nick Hunter would say, hack to get everything going. But it's a very awesome day. We have a lot going on. Let's cover a little bit of low-hanging fruit first. What I'm going to do, and I'm going to pop fmtraining.tv. So I want to bring this up. So the upcoming broadcast schedule. So if you go to fmtraining.tv, as you can see that you have a lot of tabs up here. The live training tab is one of the most popular tabs because this is all the free training that's coming up. So today is a 2 hours installation of FileMaker Server Windows. So everything about today is about FileMaker Server Windows. If you have a question about Mac or Linux, if you want to throw it in and we can handle it obliquely, we will. If you're asking about other topics today, we're going to kindly probably have the moderators. And our moderator in training is behind me is Margaret. Say hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Margaret's here. That's an upcoming broadcast schedule. As a reminder, we did push an update. Well, I'll announce that tomorrow, but we have a minor book update going in. So if you end up buying a book, you'll get the latest version of our book. We'll have a new update of the PDF. Haley is supposed to give that to me. She hasn't done it quite yet. The video player is now, if you download this, is version X46. So if you have FileMaker, our video training player, which plays a lot of free stuff, is version 46. We had version 45, and then Hogle figured out that he'd built this really great bug fix, but then did not turn on the bug fix. So we had to go, John, after you build it, you have to turn it on. He goes, oh, okay, sorry about that. So yes, very exciting on that end of things. So, and reminder that we have lots of great training. If you're not taking part in our training or watching our on-demand training, this is really good stuff. It's also how we pay to keep the lights on here in the office. So that's an annual subscription that you get with our training. We don't sell the courses individually anymore. We sell them annually. So it's about 9-10 minutes after the hour. We've got the updates. Jacob Taylor, what are we doing today? And should I be concerned, or should I run screaming from the building now? Would be the question.
Yes. Now would be the appropriate time to run screaming from the building. That's correct.
Have you had lunch? Let me ask the question. Have you had lunch?
I have had lunch, yes.
Okay, so what's going to happen, this is going to take a lot of blood sugar. Jacob Taylor might need an emergency IV of enthusiasm or something about halfway through. So hopefully you have a snack close by in the event of an emergency. And what we will do is I will answer some questions while you're desperately trying to reload the old boiler in there to keep your brain going, right? So Jacob is very sensitive to low blood sugar, like I used to be, like where it's like, how many 4-letter words can I give you in a 5-minute period to express to you how much I don't want to work, right? And then after you feed him, he's good. So today is about Windows. Last week we did Mac. We tried to fit it in an hour. It turned into 90 minutes real fast. So what are we doing today? And why is it relevant? And why should people care?
So, well, all right. So the basic thing is we're installing FileMaker Server 19.2 on, in this case, Windows Server 2019. But also, I've done actually nothing with this system other than set up the Amazon firewall on it and download the software that we need for this. So you'll see everything. I'm actually starting at getting the disks plugged in.
Okay.
So.
And the operating system is installed. So we assume that all the Microsoft updates have been run as well, right? Okay.
Basically.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So why don't you show us the screen, and then we're doing an Amazon machine here. Is that what we're doing?
This one is, yeah. And I put 4 disks on it so we can, if we want to demo the container split or at least talk about that, it's available to us. But any kind of on-site server will be something similar to this, just as a I'm going to keep demoing these things with all the split disks the way that we do. It may not be, physical disks that you're splitting. You may end up with volumes across, your storage array or something like that. But just for like organization purposes, I'm just going to keep showing what we think is like the correct way to set these things up. Mostly because we've run into issues with clients where they put everything on the boot drive basically, and at some point inevitably something fills, and that makes Windows really mad, makes your databases shut when you're not expecting them to be, causes all kinds of mayhem. So.
Yeah, so if you have, I just want to get back to the conversation real quick. If you have a FileMaker server that's reasonably up to date, that's working great, like do me a favor or do yourself a favor, leave it alone, right? If it's working great and it's not broke, don't don't break it. But if you're using 17 and you want to get up to 19, or using 18, you really want to get up to 19. But if you have a 19.1 and it's working really great, then you don't necessarily need to run the update, right? So this kind of keep that in mind, right? So
yeah, if you haven't had any bugs with 19.1.
Yeah, cool.
All right. That was the first version that they introduced the new lock-in code, and so there's a theoretic situation where you could have issues with that, but it was mostly with larger clients with larger databases basically run into issues occasionally. Again,
you can turn up the volume on that so you can hear it if you want. All right, cool. Well, we're set. I told Margaret to turn up the volume. She's going to be here doing that. We're all set. I'm going to generally be muted, and then as questions come in, we'll try to organize those for you, Jacob. And we're going to show your screen. So we're on your Mac at the moment, but we're going to jump to here we go. We're on Windows. So we have
got it. There we go.
We've remoted into Windows. Okay, here we are. Cool.
Yep. Full screen on Windows. So let me make sure I can see all the stuff I need to over here on the side. So you can see a few desktop icons. I've installed a couple things beforehand just to make this a little less painful. But the first thing that you actually have to do if you're going to set up any kind of a virtual server is set up your hard drives. We've specified the sizes here, and there's no real discussion on what the sizes are or mean, because you're going to have to look at the size of your database, the size of your container data, how much space you need for backups and that sort of stuff to be able to evaluate. But generally what we're doing is we have a boot disk, and then in this case we'll demo a split, what we call the split container setup, where we put the container data on its own hard drive. Just because it's nice for organization and a bunch of other reasons. But the main reason for actually doing that is because we can have basically purpose-specific drives. Yep. And so just to walk through how I got to this menu, I just go in and type like disks into the start menu. This is the thing that you need to go into. It's the Windows management panel for hard drives, volumes, disk management generally. If you go to the there's a big server browser that has all the 17 different modules that Windows has. Disk management is one of the snap-ins for it, or you can do as I've done and kind of activate it specifically. So we're going to initialize all of these drives. That is what it sounds like. It doesn't format them or do anything like that. It just says, oh, this disk is 50 gigs. I think the one below it's 20, and there's another 50 or something like that. And so we'll just hit OK. And then we have hard drives, and we'll see how long this takes. Cool. All right, and so we're going to do a new volume.
There's a quick comment on Twitch from Jay Warner. Is Jacob in WITSEC program, WITSEC program? Is that why we cannot see his protection? No, yeah, we don't. We're going full screen on this. You don't need to see his face at the moment. We showed him a second ago.
Earlier.
We showed his face on time. Well, if all the students in the class were here on time, you would have seen his face. Oops, sorry, I'm not.
Yeah, and I don't have the little video thing that that Richard does where he replays it back out to everybody. So we're going to do a volume. We're going to make a volume. We're just going to click next on all of these. So yeah, this will be drive D. You can name these. So we'll do databases. All right, so then we have a database drive. We're going to make a backups drive, I think. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do new backups drive. Next, E. We always do that. We always do the E drive for the backups. This is just RCC stuff. It doesn't really matter for the rest of you. You can name your own drive letters and do that kind of stuff. And we'll do F. And then this will be our container data drive. We'll see if we get to demoing that today, but we'll at least have it available in case we want to. So now we have 4 hard drives in our system, and if I go to my computer, and boom, we have 4 hard drives. One of them is, the C, and then 3 more that we added. Again, the sizing of these doesn't, I'm not going to talk about why 50 or 100 or something else. The main thing is you need to think about how big your databases are going to be, how big your backups are going to be, how big any container data you need to store is going to be, and make sure that you have sufficient space to deal with that. as a reminder, we go way over the top in a great way on backups. And so, if you're dealing with a system that's from RCC, you'll probably have 60 backup copies of whatever your thing is. So if it's a split container setup, then it's the FMP12 set of the data set times 60. That's like your minimum backup drive size. Like you'd start there and then round up.
I've never had anyone come to me and say, and they've crashed, they've lost their database, and they come back to me and go, Richard, we just have too many backups. We're wasting all this money. That's never happened, right? Seriously, right? It's like, it never happens. It's people
literally never.
Thank God, we have a backup, and it's the one we need. Thank God, seriously, that's the conversation. So don't get cheap on the backups, folks. We had this conversation last week, and then probably then I get people going, "Hey, do I really need backups? And should I really have SSL?" I actually, strictly speaking, backups before SSL, but either one, you need both. So
yeah, realistically, both. All right, so we have hard drives now, and then basically at this point we can begin installing our software and configuring folders and stuff like that. On a certain level, we should probably make some. Actually, let's make some folders here. So I'm going to make a folder. We're going to do this by hand today. We'll do FileMaker data there. So that'll be our live databases. That's the D drive. We're going to go into the E drive, and we're going to make some backup directories. I guess we probably don't have to make all of them today, but just as a reminder, we often will do hourly, daily, and weekly backups, and then sometimes an occasional, fourth or fifth option that keeps one at some time frame that's useful for the business. Particularly our offsite backup system works off of a single hourly backup. But for example, some of you may have some kind of a NAS offsite that happens, and you want to do that on Fridays or maybe overnight, if you do it daily also. Stuff like that. And so if you have your, some kind of third-party backup software that you're using that you're going to plug into there, and you need it to grab a copy of the database and shuffle it off to wherever it needs to be, you can make a backup schedule in FileMaker Server that addresses just that software use. And so if you need, all right, one daily goes here, one hourly for this backup system, and then you have your regular hourlies, dailies, and weeklies elsewhere. You can do that. And if for those purpose specific ones, you only say keep a single backup, because you don't need to keep 7. You don't need to zip up and ship 7 copies of it or whatever. We'll stick with the basics for today. So we'll have an hourly, a daily, and a weekly schedule. And then the final thing is we're going to have a container data. So we're going to do new, we're going to do container.
For those of you who want to know more about this, this is where we back up the containers separately. We did a whole webinar right on that, I'm sure.
Yep, to demo it, yes.
That we mentioned this last week, but yeah, somewhere there's a webinar on that we talked about this specific topic. It's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll say I know a lot of people don't do that, frankly, because it's a little bit of rocket surgery to get the files moved around correctly and not. There's no damage that I've seen happen, but you can definitely, if you don't move the container data when you're doing that right, you can end up going into your solution as you turn it back on, and then you have no container data, and it freaks everybody out. And that's, basically that's one of the potential downsides there. But that actually won't damage anything, and so we'll probably demo that later this year again. There's a lot of cost and operational benefits from doing that split. So, okay, so we have our drives, we have our folders. I don't think we need any prereqs. There's no other. I installed the basics, which is we've got Chrome and stuff. Let me go look at my own directions here just to make sure I'm not forgetting something super obvious. No, Chrome, Windows updates. Oh yeah, as a recommendation, we usually turn. Oh, thank you, TK. If that could be brought to other places. TK posted the container data backup optimization stream that we did, and that's the split container setup. It's a demo on that, the cost savings, how to do it, etc. So if you're like, I don't understand, go watch that when you're done today. Yeah. Okay, so one of the only other things that we do basically is we rename the system. So you go into my computer and you can change the computer name. For on-site installs, this matters much less, mostly because on-site installs, the server will probably be named either something, my company's server or whatever, or if you're in a larger, like an enterprise scenario, it'll be, similarly ugly as this EC2 Amos blah, 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 blah thing, except it'll make sense to your business because it'll be like, the server on the West Coast USA data center, database backend number 4, whatever, it'll have meaning like that. And so it's not strictly necessary to do that, but that's what's there.
There was a quick question. It's sufficiently on topic. I'm going to field it. Agent Chevy says, does the AWS free tier account, which I think is a micro EC2 instance, would that allow enough horsepower to test FileMaker Server?
No.
Okay.
Just no. The smallest machine on Amazon that you can get FileMaker Server to install on, there's not enough RAM on smaller instances to install the software, is a medium.
Okay, so once upon a time we were able to install it on a small. You can't even do a small anymore, eh? So
no, not in Windows at least. No.
Okay.
Maybe. I mean, what was it? So the very first version of Cloud 1.15,
yes,
that was the one that shipped with a small option, which they eliminated with 16 because clients kept running out of memory and crashing their servers.
Okay.
It's possible, and so like kind of in the literal sense, if you have a single connected thing and you literally just want to play with it or something, maybe that actually isn't free tier. It's not free tier compatible or whatever. It will cost you some money.
Yep.
But it's a small, so it's not much.
Yeah.
But generally, and actually, if you're going to do it on Linux or something like that, you'll save a bunch of money. So if you did a medium on that, those are, I don't know, $30 a month or something like that. It's not expensive. And so, yeah. Anyway. All right. So let's start. So I have a bunch of installers here. The two that really matter are FileMaker Pro and FileMaker Server. I, in advance, downloaded our license certificate. That will be on your Claris licensing page. And actually there is one prerequisite, which is why I downloaded it here. Moki, the answer to your question is no. He asked, when 19.3 comes out, will we be moving any of our servers to Linux to save money? We will not. We may consider that at a future time, but probably not immediately.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do stuff on day one, right? I mean, day one. Yeah. Okay, so let's just be clear about this real quick. So just to frame the conversation for everyone. So Amazon puts together a virtual server for you in EC2, and they package it with the operating system for you. And so they've cut it. So Amazon has cut a deal with Microsoft to basically rent a server to you, and you get one price. They charge it on a per minute or millisecond basis, but at the end of the day, you only care about the monthly cost. And so when you get a Windows server, or an Intel-based server, I guess, with the Windows operating system on it, that price is built in there, and Windows jacks up the price, adding that software from Microsoft. But if you get the Linux one, then theoretically Linux is kind of free. Like, that's always kind of like in quotes, because you could get a support contract and maybe it wouldn't be free. But the idea that theoretically it's cheaper, and the performance is similar to Windows. The rub is that you could save some money on it, but basically Claris, and I was talking to Claris about this when I had that chat with them, and they're like, do you realize what we've done in the last year? We've shipped all this other stuff, including we're going to end up shipping 2 versions of Linux, like brand new products, in 1 year. And the first one was the CentOS one that's in market right now. And of course, they didn't know at the time, and no one did, that CentOS was about to be blown up and abandoned and shot in the head. And so everyone who's on CentOS is making this transition to another version of Linux, and they're going, and Claris is going to Ubuntu, right? So that's basically another version of the product that has to be kind of ported to it. It has to be checked, it has to be verified, revalidated. It's a major work. So it's really a 1.0 product. It might be called FileMaker Server 19.3, but for FileMaker Server for Ubuntu, let me help you out. Here's the version number for you right here, right? That's the version number. 1.0.0, okay, baby? And so you never want to be the first person to install that unless you've got nothing to do in life and you're bored because you won the lotto, okay? In which case, go for it and let us know how it happens. So just understand that framework, okay? Cool.
Yep.
Yes. So actually, Moki said, isn't the performance supposed to be better too? The initial testing with the CentOS was that all the capabilities were within 10% of Windows. So you're going to make more of a change, or the benefit to Linux is not the performance. The benefit will be the money savings, the cost savings. Okay. And of course, if you get buggy software that's 1.0, your cost savings will be destroyed by you having to personally slave over the crash machine and restarting it and restore from backup. So I'm a big fan of Linux, but you have to have a Linux person who's available who loves Linux and get in there, which isn't me. And the second part is I don't want it to be 1.0. Okay, two criteria. But performance, maybe at some point it'll be optimized a little better for Linux, but as of right now, all the features are within 10%. So you will make more of an impact to your solution by doing Nick lean design than you will be by going from Windows to Linux, right? So,
yep.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and the recommendation that I gave Mogi in chat was like the 10% is totally irrelevant if you can't support the Linux box.
Right.
Like that's the biggest question is, can you support it? The difference is 10%. That isn't costing your business any money at all. It is what can you support? If you're that close to the capacity level that 10% matters, your capacity is too low and you need to boost stuff basically.
There's another question here real quick. And of course, Moki keeps asking all these questions are off topic. So I'm going to put a moratorium on Moki, but Moki wants to know if I sat in the secret meeting at Amazon and I have the secret information on the secret pricing of what Tim Cook decided that they're going to charge to get a Mac M1. I haven't seen the announcement on Mac M1s being a virtual machine you can get at Amazon, but if they are, the CEO of Apple didn't call me and let me know the pricing, so I don't have anything for you. So I know you guys think that I'm a miracle worker, but damn, right?
And you won't use any of the Macs in AWS for anything that you're thinking about anyway. The Macs that are currently available in Amazon are not virtual machines. Underline the word not virtual machines. They are physical machines. They are $2 an hour to operate, and you have to pre-purchase them in like a day-sized chunk. And that's
wait, $2 an hour?
Yes, they're expensive.
That's that's way more than the high-end Windows machine with all the RAM.
Yes.
That's way more expensive than Windows.
They're meant for they're intended not to be cheap. They're meant for a specific purpose, which is companies that need to automatically build software on Macs and don't keep in-house build servers. They want to do that in Amazon. And so for that, it 100% makes sense. For that kind of narrow use case, A-OK all day, and probably actually costs okay for just such a use case. But yeah, it's not going to be the thing that you put your FileMaker server on. Even if they introduce an M1 Mac, I don't foresee that changing because they're not allowed to virtualize them anyway. So
cool. All right.
First step of install. It is in fact not installing FileMaker Server. So one of I'll call it a prerequisite, and this is just an ease thing. It probably doesn't matter that much when you do it, but I'm going to do it at the start just so we can get it out of the way. We always have the short conversation about Java and FileMaker. So on the server side specifically, if you need WebDirect or the XML gateway, as was previously called the PHP API, that PHP code generally might need to go somewhere else with 19.2 because it doesn't include PHP anymore. But if you need one of the two things that is in Java, which is the XML gateway or WebDirect, the web presentation engine generally, then you have to install a Java. As of specifically FileMaker Server 19.2, you can use Java 11 instead of Java 8. Previous versions required Java 8. Previous versions required specific patches of Java 8. 18 basically doesn't care which version of 8, it'll run just fine. 19 is the same. All versions work on Java 8, but Claire's made the recommendation with the release of 19.2 that 1, Java 11 is supported, and 2, you're kind of generally encouraged to begin using it. And so we're going to do that. The one that RCC kind of endorses, if you want to call it that, is Amazon Corretto. It is exactly equivalent to the Oracle Java you guys maybe used for over the last 20 or 25 years that it's been around. It's basically the same thing. It's just Amazon makes it instead of Oracle or Sun back in the day. Also, I like it because I can, well, you'll see the install here. I'm going to click next about maybe 3 times. And then we'll wait for the progress bar, and that's it. So
that was super easy.
Yeah. I was a non-Windows user. No, all Windows computers known to man come with remote desktop software built in, just like Mac has screen share. It's the same thing. It's called Microsoft RDP, Remote Desktop Program.
And then, so you're getting to that through what on your Macintosh?
The Microsoft Remote Desktop app. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a client app that you installed on your Mac as well.
Comes direct out of the App Store. It is humorously, it's better than the one on Windows. The Windows Remote Desktop application has fewer features and doesn't support certain things the Mac app does. So
okay. Cool. Yeah. There you go.
I literally run into problems with clients because they want a remote desktop into their own server, and I try and show them the folder redirect thing, which is this, where I can, like, there's a folder on my computer that's pretending to be a network drive on the remote system. This is like on my desktop somewhere, basically. That's like a pain, and on some versions of Microsoft Remote Desktop, like for Windows computers, it's literally not supported. It's like not possible to set up. So
okay, and so and then the exact title was Windows RDP, right?
No, Microsoft RDP. That's what I called it.
Oh, Microsoft RDP. Okay, yeah, because I just did a search for that, and I got Microsoft Remote Desktop.
Yep, it's a circular, rounded icon with little arrow.
With arrows, with kind of an orange color, red color-ish, kind of whatever.
Red, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool. All right, good.
There's if you see one, there's probably 2 listings in there. One is a much uglier icon and is very square looking comparatively. That is the ancient one. It's still there because as of yet, the new version cannot talk all the way back to horrifically old versions of Windows like 2003 and 2008. And so they have to maintain the old version in case you have to talk to ancient servers that probably shouldn't still be around or are in industrial control scenario or industrial control system scenarios where they're probably mostly offline and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're running a conveyor belt and moving things around. Yeah, so
yep.
Cool.
Okay. So we're just going to click the installer because this part of it's like the software installs, basically clicking next a few times. Yeah, thank you, David Angel. That's the icon.
That's the one you want. So if you're a Mac person trying to remote in. No, I'm very much the same way. So now we're double clicking and serving.
Can you show how you find your AWS instance and connect to it? Yes, you have the IP, you have the username, and the password. You plug them into the app. And then you connect. Moki asked that question. Sorry, Moki asked, "How do I connect? How do I find my AWS instance?" I don't.
Well, you have to. You log into your AWS control panel, right?
Yep.
And then you have to find the instance.
We won't have time to demo that today. I'm already trying to do the disks and all that kind of stuff. So if you go to our video course, so for the people that want to see it literally from scratch. Go to our video course. In the server deploy section, there is a start to finish FileMaker Server deploy on Amazon. It includes every single detail, such as how do I find my IP, how do I get that, how do I plug it into my thing.
I think that was about a 5-hour session.
Yeah, I shot for like 6 hours straight. So yeah, yep.
So
we can. Yeah.
So let me handle that real quick. So this broadcast is brought to you by FMTraining.tv, where you could go and see absolutely everything that you need to be successful with, because it's awesome, right? Go to FMTraining.tv, click the bundles button, and then choose which bundle is right for you. Once again, FMTraining.tv. And it'll look like air brakes on the truck.
And so basically what we're waiting on right now is one of the prerequisites to FileMaker Server, Microsoft Internet Information Services. If you guys are familiar with other operating systems, a lot of them they have like a web server that comes built in. Windows is IIS. Mac comes with Apache built in. Linux, well, you can pick because it's got 70 or whatever, but Apache is the one that FileMaker Server works with, so that's what you'd see.
All right. Installing IIS. Okay. Does RCC sell managed hosting? Yeah.
We do not.
We do not sell managed hosting. We help set servers up for people. We help them answer questions to keep them running. We'll monitor for them, and if there's an outage and it's like mostly normal business hours, we will jump in there and help you with your crash server, right? But we don't provide 24/7, 365 around the clock support because most people don't want to pay for that. I mean, if you look at what that kind of costs, you go to Claris and you get Cloud 2. And despite Cloud 2's issues, they do theoretically provide 24/7 support, but the cost on their servers when you start to scale them goes up quite a bit, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, any kind of reasonable 24/7 thing.
So this, what size instance is this that we're running right now? Is this a medium?
No, it's a T3X large. This is the same thing DBW4 has.
Oh, that's a good server. That's the server right here will run 20, 30 people real easy.
Yep.
We'd like to use Bonjour. Are you going to say that? Yes.
Sure. Yeah, we say yes. Whatever. Doesn't matter in Amazon. So what this does, this matters. But describing this matters much more for on-site installations. So if you all are familiar with open up FileMaker Pro, go to your hosts menu, and then over on the left side at the bottom, there's like local hosts. Bonjour is how those are found. And so if you were to say no on an on-site server, you would be required to program in the IP or use a launcher file or something similar.
Yeah.
The server and the clients will not just find each other.
Yeah, but
again, this doesn't matter at all on the cloud, whatever, because the beaconing or whatever that's supposed to happen on the local area network is like within Amazon, and that's of little or limited use to you being, out on the internet somewhere.
Yeah.
So. Yes, this is the same Bonjour that came on Mac years ago. It still comes on Mac. It is the technical standard for it is called MDNS, and most operating systems at this point actually support it or have applications that do. If you are a Linux person, you would know it by the name Avahi. So, and so we're just going to hit next because there's a bunch of options here we can look at. You could put the app on somewhere else. We tend to install it to the boot drive. Some of our clients don't like that and have a standard that they install, like FileMaker Server, the database, not backups maybe, but all the app stuff in the databases themselves to like their own separate drive because they have a virtual machine system on site where they can like swap out the Windows drive or something. And so then you just keep or do something with that basically. And so they'll have a standard like that. And so they'll have a 3-drive configuration, and they'll have an operating system drive that has no apps, a secondary drive that has FileMaker Server, Pro, databases, and maybe a 3rd drive that does backups or something. So, and then for this case, I don't know that we've covered WebDirect workers.
We talked about it for the Mac conversation last week. We talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. Yeah, someday we'll have to do like a demo of setting that up or something. It's a very narrowly used thing. Most of our clients don't do it. That's why there hasn't been a huge demand for it or anything like that. And actually, we had a client that thought they could do something with it, and it turns out that you can't. Basically, the diagram's kind of wrong as to what's like needed to access it. So. But basically what WebDirect workers allow you to do is to take WebDirect and put it out on a bunch of different servers. So instead of a single WebDirect machine that can handle, I think the spec is 100, but we showed in one of our demos, you can go above that if you have enough horsepower. You can split that out and say 100 times up to, I think, five WebDirect machines. So
basically the idea is that your FileMaker server is not on one machine anymore. It's spread out over 5 machines. So that's kind of the short version of that. It takes the FileMaker server and kind of breaks it out. There's obviously the fine print in that, so that will make WebDirect faster. It might make it faster, Moki, if your issue is one where you have a lot of people beating on the WebDirect machine and it's slowing down because of overall load. If it's slow because you just made a slow database, then yeah.
It won't help at all, yeah. And yes, David Angel, if you have a bunch of them, it is round robin. It'll connect, you connect to whichever one you connect to, and then that one looks and sees if it's overloaded, and it'll kick you to a different one if it needs to, basically. So we disabled some websites because that comes up. We're going to put our, I think it's like that. Yeah, cool. Super secure. These are your admin console credentials. And then again, we always tell everybody this, always write down your PIN, but it isn't super critical. The one time that you use it is if you forget your admin console password. The only time the PIN comes up is you have to use the PIN to reset the admin console password. So, which can be done like locally on the server on the command line. I don't think we've ever demoed that, but that's the only time it comes up. So. Dun-dun-dun. Actually, with 19.2, this stuff is pretty smooth. We've gotten the fit.
What about the issue we had where you had to install certain Microsoft something, or it couldn't be installed? You run the installer, it would blow up in little bits. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, that was cool. Let me see if it's on here or not. Yeah, the issue that they had is, okay, so this is the one, oh, hey, it tolerates it now. Nice. This was the issue that we had right there. So, cool. So they've resolved that then.
So that's an issue in the installer for 19.1 or 2?
Oh, I don't know. We were trying to deal with 19.2 at the time. That was the one that we ran into the issues with. There was a problem where if there were like multiple versions of Microsoft Visual C++ on your computer, it would block installation of FileMaker Server. Not because it wouldn't, like it would go all the way through and it would get all the way to the end. And then there's it's actually what happened like behind this dialog that's up, you must restart your system. There was a thing that happened in the back end behind that where the installer tells the Microsoft Windows service to boot FileMaker Server, and that would fail based on something, I'm not sure. If there were other overlapping but incorrect versions of Microsoft Visual C++ installed, it was very, annoying to try and figure out. But this seems to have worked, so. And that install date indicates that it came with the system, not
well, it was funny because you point out that Claris was trying to hire an engineer who knew how to build installers, right? So we assume that this is part of that conversation, probably.
Sorry, repeat.
Yeah, well, you would mention that Claris was trying to hire a engineer who was a specialist in installers, right? Yeah,
to solve specifically these problems. Yeah, they hired. I need to go back and look and see if the job posting got taken down, because I'll assume if that happened, then they hired somebody. But basically, they were trying to hire somebody to deal with all the packaging problems that they were having, specifically to deal with the kind of Windows issues that I run into, some of the more sharp edges on Mac, and then probably that person was also going to try and iron out some of the Linux packaging or something like that. I don't know. But
so when we say packaging, we're not talking about the box of software. We're talking about the software installer, right? So software installers, I built them before for FileMaker solutions, and even at that level, they can be a real pain in the ass to do. So,
yep.
So a lot of dependencies you have to make sure you account for, and even when you think you've nailed it perfect, then some customer puts something in there you've never seen before, and then you've got a crash, right? So
for Agent Chevy, taking note of the softwares that we have to download separately. So FileMaker Server comes with all of its own prerequisites except Java. So the one thing, and we use Amazon Corretto. That's the type of Java that we use. I talked about that as a little quick coverage earlier on. But the other stuff that we install, like you can see some other things like WinDirstat, Notepad++, etc., Chrome, whatever. I've just put those on because they make my life easier. They're not strictly required, and you can do all of this stuff without them. I just I hate fighting the Windows lockdown security mode for Internet Explorer. No, it's not. David Angel. David Angel asked if WinDirstat is in the upper right-hand corner. No, it is not. Please Google WinDirstat. I'm not going to cover that software today. You can see them on screen and then go look up what they do. WinDirstat does what it says. It does Windows directory statistics. And so, for example, if you are trying to avoid a situation where you fill your boot drive, it is super useful. Because it will give you a nice graphical display of where all the big stuff is on your drive. And you can go, oh, I don't want that, or oh, that can be deleted, or oh, FileMaker Server has created some cache file I didn't know about, and it's blowing up my computer. Whatever. It makes it much quicker to identify issues like that. So, all right, leave that aside. We're being asked to reboot, so we'll do that. I'm actually going to say no here, but we'll do it just to humor the installer. Let's see, finish. Dun, dun, dun. And we're not gonna do SSL today. We're gonna accept the risk, and then I'm gonna reboot the server. And to intentionally show bad things, let's see. Oh, cool. We have an update of some sort. Installation. Go Windows, go. All right, cool. So we'll wait for Windows to come back in a couple seconds. Yeah, that's correct, Moki. That's the screenshot, or that's the thing that he's asking about. I don't know what generates that. There's an app that Amazon servers come with. It's a Microsoft utility or something that runs in the background. You can put stuff like that on your own computers. For those who are not on Discord specifically, it's the details about the running system, the host name, the public IP address, and how much RAM it has, and that kind of stuff that was up in the top right-hand corner of the server. Kind of desktop window. There's an application that you can run on Windows computers that will give you that stuff. You have to tell it which of those details you want it to display, but you can set it up, and it'll gather the info every 5 seconds or 10 or a minute or whatever it is, and then keep it up to date so you can see what's going on your computer. Super useful on virtual machines, especially if you have large fleets of virtual machines. It's common there because it's basically otherwise difficult to tell what computer you're looking at. And often you're going to be looking at the same dang desktop background over and over and over again, but every computer does a different thing, and it helps a lot to keep track of what you're looking at. So, all right, let's see if Windows is back. Nice. Windows is back. All right.
All right, so real quick, I'm going to pivot here to Moki. There's been kind of a sideline conversation about Docker going on a little bit. I had Oregon Dean ask me about this. Basically, RCC will use a technology if we have a need for it. We won't use it if we don't need it, or it happens to be junk, right? Moki assumes that way we're not using it because it's junk. Nothing could be
the opposite of true.
Nothing could be farther from the truth. We may not use it because, we have 30 engineers and only, 400 or 500 active customers worldwide. And so of that group, no one is putting us in a situation where we need to have that specific capability. So understand that, we have, in terms of training, we have thousands of people that we train, but in terms of people who ask us, hey, I need a server that does X, Y, Z, we just haven't had a need for it. So Docker containerizes, whatever the hell that means, which I guess is a good thing. But the reality is that getting FileMaker Server to work on it is a hack, and it's tricky. And Chris Moyer says he's done it, but he generally recommends people talk to Fabrice about it. Fabrice is a guy who's in the EU who he figured out how to make it work. And so what he did is, instead of sharing the data with everyone, he just turned it into a business. I have no problem with that. It's his knowledge and information to share or not share. But
I straight up tell people, if they want to go play with that, you should just go get a trial of his service if you want to mess around with it, because he's got it ironed out. And there's through his, he posted that somewhere. Basically, if you go through his sign up thing, there's the option of not paying. There's a temporary trial at the end, basically. So if you want to mess around with it and see the performance differences or whatever, go for it. We're just not like demoing it. So
yeah, because we don't have performance issues, at least that I'm aware of. So yeah, so
no,
yeah. So if you're going to check it out, then you better already have a very specific set of performance things that you're doing, where you have a stopwatch and you know how long it takes on the server, and be able to account for that in testing. So yeah.
All right, so we have a FileMaker server here. We rebooted it. All right, hold on. I'm going to do something because this is driving me up a wall. So we go to adjust date time. We're going to do, because Windows comes with UTC by default, and I'm going to set it to our time zone, which is Pacific. So now the clock looks right. Awesome. The other thing that we do that's just a silly setup thing, these are in our like documented directions. We do that. And all the icons are on the bottom. So, all right. Anyway, back to normal. So, as you guys maybe noticed, we did one thing that was bad here, which is I didn't touch anything when I shut FileMaker Server down. I just told Windows, go for it, reboot. And as you see, it did, and it came back up, and our databases are open. And that's terrifying. Never do that. So in this particular case, it's the FM server sample file, so I honestly don't even care if it gets damaged. It doesn't matter at all. But if you have it, obviously you're probably not going to have your production data in the database directory when you go to do the install or something like that. So that's unlikely to be like a problem that actually happens. But just to repeat it, don't do that. The very first thing that you're going to do when you come into a FileMaker server to set it up is to be to turn that off.
So we're turning off the fact that it will not automatically open databases. Why do we turn this off? Because why? It always opens the databases, right? That are
if the reason that they were closed is because it crashed, a human needs to come and help the server deal with its problem. If the reason is that you took the system down for Windows updates or some other thing, some kind of maintenance task or what have you, that's great. You'll be there and you'll come back to it and know that you need to go open the databases again. In that case, they'll be fine and they'll be safe. You don't have to worry about it.
Okay, so let me explain to you. I had a conversation with one of my engineers, almost coming up on 18 months ago, and this was the exact scenario. So the customer was in somewhere in the southern part of the United States, lots of thunderstorms, and they would say, well, our FileMaker server goes up and down all the time because we have a lot of power problems. And so they had it on a battery backup, so they're good. Except what would happen is that the battery would run out of power and it would crash the machine, and this feature was turned on. So the server would, when you don't close the FileMaker file properly, you're potentially damaging the file. And so every day or every other 3 or 4 days when they have a really nice thunderstorm in Louisiana or Alabama or wherever they were at, the server would crash and the thing would auto open the files. It doesn't alert the users that they're using a crash file. It doesn't alert the users that the files may be damaged. It just opens them and hopes for the best, right? This is called FileMaker's. It should say use prayers and hope, and then enable, right? Use prayers and hope that your FileMaker file isn't damaged. And yes, please use prayers and hope. Not that prayers don't work, but the reality is that I can assure you in the case of FileMaker Server, prayers have nothing to do with it. You were screwed. Okay, so and so it's very, very, very important that you understand that this is a feature. Then you would say why it's in here, and I'm repeating this because someone maybe didn't see the Mac conversation last week, but this was created by the marketing or sales department right here. Anyone at FileMaker who actually knows how the product works knows this is a freaking disaster right here, because it will keep opening the file with this damaged day after day after day until one day you actually try to open it and it says the file is not available. Then you dig into the server and you find out that it's been progressively damaged during each crash for the last X number of months, and now it's gone and it's not openable, and it will not open at all. Like, there's your company, there's your data, you can't get to the data, your company can't run. That's where this ends. It ends in FileMaker hell. It does. So I don't know what to say besides that should always be off, and it's on because someone in sales and marketing decided that would be a really great checkbox. So
yep.
All right, keep going, Jay.
So and then you maybe want to change your server name. I always tell people this, it's a cosmetic thing. Obviously this is like not a great name basically, but But cosmetically, if you do not have like a manual window namer or something in your FileMaker application, which you would probably know if you had sat there and programmed that on every layout that you go into. If you do not, then that server name that's right here will be displayed at in little parentheses at the top of every window that you're looking at. And so if you don't want this to be some wicked, terrible looking server name, name it something better. My company's FileMaker Server, company FMS, something like that. We will often do stuff like, it's dash, but because it looks nice. You could do something, company name FMS, and that'll look nice. So that's the main thing about these two things. We used to have people ask about these two. We used to actually, the oldest version of our recommendations had us turning literally everything here off, but I've found that it wasn't necessary. The thing to keep yourself safe is just that the databases need to not open. Basically, that's the catch. That'll save you in a crash scenario. So.
Yeah, because whenever you want that wherever there's a crash, there always must be human intervention. That is what protects you, and then the human has to decide whether it was shut down properly. And if they don't know that it was shut down properly, they need to go to the last good backup, which means you must have good backups, right? So once again, separate conversation. We've talked about this at great length, but you must have good backups. You must use the last good backup. If you don't, then the day will come where your file just won't open, right? So, in which case you better have your resume warmed up and ready to go.
Okay, so there's timeouts. If you guys need client timeouts, one of the ones that gets adjusted all the time is the WebDirect, because it defaults to 15 minutes, and some people have their users actually using WebDirect, and so that gets turned up to 60 or something like that. So folders, this is the one that we're going to really touch here. So we're going to do the additional database directory. That's how you do the split. I'm just going to type these in. If you're on Mac, it'll be FileMac instead of FileWin. And also, it probably won't look like the FileMaker data. And then we do a container data, and it's going to be like we did. It's going to be FileWin : / and then in this case, we're going to use the E drive for backup, so it's going to be F container data. And I'm not going to explain that right now, but you can watch that stream that we linked. There it goes. Okay, cool. And just very quick coverage of the split container system. This is why it works, because it is disabled. That means you need to ensure that your container data is backed up, because FileMaker Server will not do it for you. So that's
an important tip. That's an important tip. So if you turn this off, disabled, and then you don't add it to the backup schedule, then you don't have any backups for your containers at all, like zero, right? So
yep.
Yeah.
So if you have some kind of system image or something like that, you'll have whatever frequency that is, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only backups that you have, because there will be none anywhere else. So,
all right, cool.
Be very careful with ensuring there's enough, yes, David Angel, to answer your question directly, yes, you must back up outside FileMaker Server, period. End of the discussion. That's it. So, because if you don't and your thing blows up, whatever that container data is, I hope you didn't need it, because it's gone now. If you ever want to change the default backup folder path, that's here. We rarely do this anymore, but for example, this sets itself to wherever, to be FileMaker data backups, FileMaker Server data backups. It'll set itself to whatever drive you install FileMaker Server on. This actually, so we usually turn it off, but this setting particularly is useful for the built-in 7 daily backups, these that are on by default. That basically controls where these go. So if you want to keep these because you want to use the backup and the preservation features and stuff like that, you may wish to change that setting. We generally do not, but that is where you would do it. If you're going to allow some number of users access to your thing because they're, my developer's about to make a big change, let me force a backup, and you want to guarantee where that backup is going to go. It's going to go onto the drive that's meant for that. Perfect. But you're going to need to change the default backup location to do that. So script schedules, which out of the box has nothing. Notifications, and this would be, for example, actually, if you and we demoed this recently, if you need the cache cleaning system script, which was demoed recently, or the take all databases down, verify them, consistency check them, and then make them live if everything goes well, those would be programmed here. So let's see, email notifications. I recommend these on all FileMaker servers. The Macs generally are a little grouchy, so you will learn how to deal with your email. What do you call those? The email rules to hide the ones that don't matter, basically.
Yeah.
Because it squawks too much, frankly. But that sort of aside, on most Windows systems, you will not have those issues, and so I highly recommend email notifications. To set these up, you'll need SMTP settings. So email client sending details, basically. And you can do that either through your own account or something else, but I want to just be aware, it won't update anything. So if you change your password, your email notifications have just broken. And so if you have like a mature IT organization, they will probably have a system, email notification type account somewhere that's specific for a purpose like this. If they have other servers that send email notifications, they'll have details that they can program in. And you'll either get those from them or have your wonderful IT guys come in and program this in. So
there was a question from Nathan, I guess, with regards to the crash files. Would doing a verify backup once a week or a month help with that?
No. I mean, it might detect it when the once a week or month happens, but it won't. The verification is like a read-only thing. It will only tell you if there's a problem. It won't fix it.
It doesn't fix anything.
That's like a thing that might alert you to an issue. So it's good. I don't mean to say don't do it. It's good, but it can only alert you reactively. It will not tell you if there was a crash previously. So that's why you keep the auto open disabled, because your server, if it crashes, will stay dead. And that is the fastest way to get everybody alerted to the fact that it's down, because nobody can get into FileMaker. And then you or whoever your IT people are, or us, maybe if you're working with us, then we jump in and try and get that fixed. So.
Yep. So that's an alert that something is going badly. Moki, good questions here. Should we be closing the files to the admin console and reopening them on a regular basis? This gets back to that the webinar that we had on the super secret self-therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to recommend?
I think that's I was gonna say, I think that's the automation for that. Mm-hmm. So basically, no, but yes. Because there is a no, because you don't have to do it manually anymore, because as of 19.1, actually not 19.2, as of 19.1, there is a scheduled script that we went over in a previous webinar that you can put in your server that will do that for you. It closes it, verifies it, reopens it, and that would do kind of what you're asking. So if you need to force a weekly maintenance or something like that, and you want to do it at Saturday at 3 a.m. or sometime nobody's on, go for it. Perfect, no problem. So.
Yeah, so we're going to try to find that live stream for that one. That was within the last 10, 14 days or so. Yeah,
last couple of weeks.
It's a new, basically it's a new feature that's part of FileMaker. It's an automatic kind of maintenance thing, but you think it would be like a checkbox over here, like turn it on, like a little on and off over here, but instead you have to go to the script schedules and wire it in that way, right? So.
Yep. So if you need an Ssl certificate installed, which you should probably have, you'll do it here. We're not going to demo that today. I suppose I could if I brought our key up or something, but and then logging, we don't ever touch anything here. But if you need to download logs and you can't remote into the server, you can on 17 and newer, you can download most of the primary logs from the admin console.
Leave it to TK. TK, you beat me to it.
Nice, TK.
I know.
Beautiful.
The guy's like damn near. I don't know.
So
I'm
going to
cry when he's gone. I'm just going to cry.
So if you need to collect server statistics, this is like an old school FileMaker thing to do. For example, tuning your server perfectly. You would do that. You would turn that on here and then begin collecting statistics. That's awesome. Please also know that, as always, statistic collection, like observation, has a cost to the performance of the system. So I think it's fairly low in FileMaker, but it's not free. It's not as bad as some other things. All right, so we don't need to do that. Connectors. Here's the exciting part. So the wonderful change in 19.2 is, so we installed Corretto previously, which is the Java runtime. And the wonderful thing in 19.2 that's different from 19.1 is I just go click that, and that's it. And it'll sit there. You let it sit. Don't click it. It won't be instant. It has to like boot the whole thing up, which usually takes 10 or 15 seconds the very first time. But I didn't have to pick which Java, do any of the stuff like that.
Will that boot without the SSL? Will that boot without?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because a lot of times
No
SSL is like really important. That stuff won't fire without it.
Yeah, the main thing that it breaks actually is the data API. And there is a workaround for that, but I always tell everyone not to do that because you want your SSL being verified. It's a great symbol that something has broken somewhere or that someone has taken over the network path between you and the server. And you maybe want to know that and potentially alert somebody. So, or for example, the dumb option is your SSL expired and you need to go yell at whoever your server guy is to go update it. Maybe that's me. Whatever. But
well, Moki says that his is running, but he doesn't think he's using web publishing. So to be clear, this web publishing engine does a couple of things. It does the XML gateway, right? It does the data API gateway, right?
Nope.
Whatever. It doesn't do that.
That's a separate toggle.
That's okay, over there. Okay, so it does XML, and it used to do PHP, but that's not in there anymore. What else does it do? Does it do anything
not included in there anymore.
But then
WPE is the basis for WebDirect, at least in this.
Yeah, so it feeds that. So yeah,
it feeds WebDirect. You have to have both turned on, or you don't get it. So like I could do this. We'll do Launch Center. We don't get anything. There's no WebDirect because it's not on. If I turn WebDirect on, wait like 2 seconds maybe, click it again. It's got to boot the first time. Here we go. We get our little landing page. Very cool. If I go back over here and I turn this off, it's going to kick everybody. It kicks all WebDirect users and everything off. So I've just asked the web publishing engine to turn itself off. We're going to see here in a second what that actually does. I don't know which toggle it's going to disable. Hopefully one, not both, but we'll see. You doing it? Come on, FileMaker, you got it. It's not running. Okay. So if I come here, yeah, there we go. So we have that. There we go. Okay, so that's what I was waiting for. Is this needs to say unavailable. Yeah. So what we have now, so I've shown you all of the options. So we got there's no thing running there, and then this is WebDirect is turned on, but there's no WebDirect undercarriage running. So when you go to open it, it goes, it's supposed to be a gateway. You're connecting to the thing that connects to the thing. The middle piece can't find its butt.
Oh, I like that. The middle piece can't find its butt with 2 hands. All right. Well, so there's a question over there that Moki wants to know what a master machine is. Master machine is the current computer that you're on, FileMaker Server. That master machine is when you're talking about having a either a master or the worker, the WebDirect workers as WebDirect installed on separate machines. The master machine is like whatever the back end is. So that'll be FileMaker Server with it doesn't come with a bunch of the WebDirect stuff. You farm that out somewhere else onto those other computers. But yeah, we were talking about this earlier, right? So the same topic. So basically all the FileMaker Server installations we do are single machine installations. What we do is if we need more horsepower, we upsize the Amazon EC2 instance, right? That's what we do because we're not, you can buy a bigger server and get more horsepower out of it. But you could take a single, so this is your single FileMaker Server running in the cloud and all the people are connected to it. Instead of that, you could have the main FileMaker Server in the cloud with several little worker machines. These are separate, Intel inside or Linux boxes, whatever. And each of these are talking to FileMaker Server. And then you're in the Amazon cloud, and then you're talking to all these people out here. And so these machines, these worker machines here, are sharing the load for processing WebDirect. They're sharing the load for that. Okay. If you're on Pro or Go, you're still connected just to the main machine, but these little workers are for WebDirect. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. And so once again, this is kind of a rickety. I would say the term that Claris used would be kind of an edge case of how people use it. Very rare. I would rather, if I need more horsepower here, I'd get a single machine, simpler to set up, but I'd get a bigger one. More power, more RAM, more processors, more whatever, right? So, yeah, if we have to do scaling to, so Moki asked the question, scaling. Okay, so I'll just deal with it. It's a good question. It's kind of a progression of performance, right? So one, you have a FileMaker server. It's slow. It's so slow. Okay, so fine, it's slow. So we're going to do some optimization and stuff, right? But let's just say that you have followed the Nick techniques. You worship at the feet of Nick Hunter or Lean Design. You pray to Nick. He is your God, okay? The level of blasphemy is like at real high levels right now, but let's just pretend that's you. So you've done all the Nicky kind of things you can do. You've maximized the design performance, which is where 90% of your performance improvement comes from how you build the file, not where it's running. So you've optimized it to max. The only thing left is a better server. So the first thing that we do is we take a T2 medium or a smaller processor machine, and we get a bigger one, a T2 large with more RAM and more processors, and then a T4, and then a T4 extra large, then an M4, and all the way to where you can get a FileMaker server at Amazon. That's about a $2,000 per month server. But I could also host 500, 600, 700 people on that, no problem. Now, what if that's not enough? Then I would get a separate, me personally, I don't want to get into the worker machine because guess what? The worker thing is kind of an edge case. I don't use it because I don't think Claris has enough customers who use it, and if you ran into a bug, I'm not confident they would fix it, right? But we know that they take single server installations very seriously, right? Because most of us have a single server. So you have a single server, another single server, and then you use replication between the two using mirror sync. So that's where that comes in. That's what I would do. That's how I would scale to 2,000 or 3,000 simultaneous people. If you need more than that, use something besides FileMaker. Go write a check for Oracle. Okay.
Yep.
Jacob, did I do that okay? Did I do it to your level of explanation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
It's different kinds of scaling. It's lateral versus versus vertical scaling, horizontal versus vertical scaling.
Yes.
If we need more people on the same system, you boost the horsepower of the system. If you need more people because that individual, it doesn't matter that system couldn't go big enough, then you need more systems. That's horizontal scaling. That's when you'd use mirror sync.
Yeah, replication with that. Yeah, absolutely. So I have my little gold badge. I have my little badges here, everyone. So when Jacob says I do a good, the boss does good, then I bring one over here and I give myself a little badge. There we go. I have one badge for today. All right, where are we at, Jacob? On your checklist.
I'm got to turn Dappy on. I'm going to turn it on. There's nothing interesting about that because it's just you turn it on and it's on. This is the data API. This is the recommendation from Claris.
This is the replacement for PHP. This is the replacement for the PHP gateway.
Yep.
Yep. So if you have PHP, you want to just cover what you just said with Peter Geens there?
Sure. Yeah, he asked, okay, so PHP, like it's not included in with FileMaker Server anymore, but right, everybody's still got like a website somewhere that uses it, and it used the old FileMaker.php thing to talk to the XML API. Okay, so you can do one of two things. You can take the old, you actually can take the old PHP and bring it up. So if you have like an existing 18 server, before you, I don't know, uninstall it, upgrade it, whatever, shut it off and capture those directories. Because if you put them back and then go to 19 and turn, there is still the enable PHP command in 19. It will do what it did in the old version. They just don't include the stuff to get that done. So if you like put the stuff back at the places where it was, and then turn it on, FileMaker Server 19 will know what you intended. The other thing that we do is we will go and install, we'll say, a relevant version of PHP like 7.4 that's actually still supported by the PHP people, and you can install that as a general PHP thing in IIS, and then the other recommendation is the Airmoy library, which it looks like TK is pasting around, which is wonderful. Thank you. And do a little tiny amount of refurb work on your code to make it work in the newer versions of PHP. You'll get a lot of performance improvements and stuff like that. And so if it was, for example, if it was an expensive initial investment, you'll get some more airtime out of it.
So Jacobs has said, the other way of saying that is if you had a big website that was running this whole stuff, the Airmoy allows you to continue to use FileMaker without a total rebuild. Airmoy, according to that little screenshot, Airmoy works with PHP 5.5. Did they make an Airmoy that work with something newer or not really?
5.5 plus, yes.
Okay. So could you...
I don't know if it works. I mean, it probably works in 8. We would install 7, whatever the latest version of 7.4 is.
And then it should work with that.
Well, yeah, it does.
Okay, and then the question is what about that library that we created? Where does that fit into this thing, the conversation?
That is, so our library is if you want to use the data API instead, which is basically, I would recommend any new projects, you should be focusing on integration with the data API, and existing projects. Basically, the word from Claris is the XML API, which is what the FileMaker.php of old used, and also what Airmoy library talks to, Airmoy FileMaker library. Those are fully in maintenance mode, so they're not like going to get deleted anytime super soon, but they're not going to get new features, and the only basic thing that they're doing is any kind of super basic bug fix. So to make sure it doesn't crash, blow up, die, whatever. Etc. So in general, existing projects that you put a whole bunch of money in, there's a small like refurb that you should do to get it up and running in newer versions of PHP to get everything on a supported platform version. But if you're building new stuff, basically use DAPI.
So just to be clear, the Airmoy works through the XML gateway, correct? Is that what it does?
Yes, it does.
And so our library works direct to the data API gateway. So it's more forward-leaning, forward-reliable. And our library was taken because there was a library from Listerius, which is a European company, and they kind of built it, but then it was kind of like had some like serious bugs. And I remember Jacob calling me going, I wrote up, told them the bugs, and then they're not fixing it. So it's open source, so we forked it. We credit them on it, but we actually kind of keep it up to date and kind of going. So one of those like little secret things. So
that thing could use a little bit of work because there's a couple 19 specific calls that exist that it doesn't do yet, but they're like, it's a 3-line implementation. I just haven't gotten to.
All right. Well, if someone needs it, let us know, and maybe we can get Jacob to do it. So yeah.
That's why when we did that demo, I was like, if you have any bugs you find, let me know. So that's data API. We're going to go plugins real quick. So script engine plugins, if you're not using it, you can leave it off. That's it. If you need to use web publishing engine plugins, those are turned on. I think, is this enabled for both? This should be WebDirect and WPE, I think. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so right about now, you have to explain what the hell this is because most people are like, there are two kinds of plugins for server?
Yeah, so there's multiple different places that you can put plugins on server because there's multiple different ways that you can use plugins on server. So server plugins, not to be confused from other things that look like server plugins, server plugins are where you need to use a plugin functionality in, for example, either a scheduled script or a perform script on server that is running inside the script engine on the server. Whatever, if that's a scheduled script or you've done a perform script on server that, for example, uses the 360works plugin to send an email.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. RCC does a lot of that.
Yeah, that actually is the only, I think, it's the only plugin that we have actually on our server.
And so then so this is where if you want to use the same plugin, but you're doing what, WebDirect? Is that what it is? WebDirect?
Yeah, WebDirect or through PHP actually. So if you had your, your website, submit some data to the database, and then you have like a post submit script. Like you create a record and then you run a script on that record, for example. That's something that you can do with the web stuff. That's data API or not, it doesn't matter. But if you need, if that thing sends an email, for example, you have to have the plugin in the web presentation engine location, or it won't send the email.
Oh, absolutely. So now they're pointing out that that the monkey bread, people are using the monkey bread, and that's of course Christian Schmidt.
There are people not using plugins? Can't be.
Yeah. So if you want to use the monkey bread with Pro or Go with Sassy or PSauce, you would install it here, and then you would install for WebDirect over here. Correct? Yes. Yeah. And then what is? I have not seen this before, so I've obviously been sleeping at the switch. What is this? The bottom one.
That is, fortunately or unfortunately, it's a little bit what it sounds like. So in a FileMaker script, you can do install whatever, like Christian's here, so we'll say we'll install MBS. So we're going to do install plugin script step.
And install a plugin
that we specify is MBS. Yeah, in a container, for example.
That's right.
You could do that as part of your making sure the world is sane that my script is about to run itself in. It will, it could check for the presence of the plugin, and if it doesn't find it, it could try and force install it or something like that.
Yeah, this has been around for a long time, back to like FileMaker Server 5. I just
and that force install will fail if this thing isn't enabled.
Okay, so so you can't install the plugin. So so if you really don't want monkey bread, you don't want anyone using monkey bread, don't want to install it automatically because you hate Christian Schmidt, then disable that thing, turn it off.
Disable it.
Disable it. By the way, once again, reminder, if you want Christian Schmidt to come and give us demos on cool stuff, you have to write down questions. Can monkey bread cure cancer, or fill in the blank there, okay? Because unless you have a specific thing, I'm not going to invite him in. We need a list of like things that he can address. Cool.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, cool. Christian's correct. We usually leave the install plugin script stuff disabled, and then do manual installs, which is to say I go remote desktop in and drop the file where it needs to go.
Yeah. Cool.
Because it's safer. If you turn that on, basically, if you turn it on, the implication is any user in any file on the server with a full access credential can install. You may not want that. So if you need to turn on ODBC or JDBC because you are using external SQL sources, this is where you do it. So that doesn't actually configure the connection or do any of that stuff.
That's a totally separate conversation, and not surprisingly, that stuff is still on the certification test. If you can believe that, it's still on the certification test.
Nice.
I know. Well, so, good or bad or something, whatever it is. Yes. So
we're going to do an install. You'd go here and you'd set up a system DSN, and we could add it.
Well, if you know how to do all this, Jacob, then we should do one sometime, right? We could go through it.
This doesn't have the FileMaker drivers on it. You'd install whatever driver. So like Microsoft ships their own drivers, of course. So if you need MS
well, FileMaker, I think FileMaker in Windows uses the Microsoft drivers. On the Mac, they use the special ones that one guy creates.
That one guy makes, yeah.
And
you have to go. That's why I said it includes the MS SQL Server driver. The rest of them that you're thinking of, the Oracle,
I was thinking of
you have to go.
MySQL,
you have to go fetch the individual ones. Yeah. So anyway,
cool.
That's where that is. Administration, we don't care about this. This will tell all your licensing details, and you can show or hide your license key, or fetch a copy, or import a license certificate. This is really useful if you either need to change licenses or your old one expires, something like that. You need to bring a new one in. You get that license cert.fm cert and do an import license cert, and that change will be live, basically. So.
And just for those of you wondering, like, hey, I don't have to renew my license. First off, if you need to renew a license, feel free to reach out to me and my team, and we'll do that. Support at RC Consulting will help you with that. But what happens if you don't renew your license, Jacob Taylor? Say it's expired, right? Will it immediately shut the server off and fire everyone into space? What happens?
No. But at some point, and I don't know what the time period is. There's a time period after your licensing expires where Basically, FileMaker Server like kind of sits down and refuses to do stuff. So basically, there's some time period after license expiry where it kind of officially becomes expired, like 100% for real. And at that point, what will happen is FileMaker Server won't shut down, but the next time you reboot or it crashes or whatever, some situation where it turns off and you have to turn it back on again, it will not start until you feed it a working license certificate file.
So what I want to tell people is that you may not renew and you're like, aha, I haven't paid for FileMaker for a whole week, okay? And your business relies upon it, right? Listen, if you put your recipe database in this, no one cares, okay? But if your business runs on it and you don't pay the money and you don't get the new license, then the day will come where it shuts off and you will be down for, I'm going to say this out loud for everyone to read my lips. You ready for this? You'll be down for days with an S, days, not hours or minutes, days with an S. Why? Because you're going to go, call. Wait, your time on hold will be 24 minutes and 3 seconds. There are 8 people in front of you. You're like, so you call Ryan Correa. Ryan, I need the license. Okay, credit card. Send a credit card. Do the order. And then we get the order. Then we process it to FileMaker, and then Claris processes it when they feel like it. It's not automatic. It's human. So we send them the order. It gets put in their system. They even though if we automate it, there's still like this human interaction that they review it. That's at least 24 hours. At least 24 hours. So if your business is down because you were going to like save yourself a week or a month or whatever, literally it's like giving your 3-year-old in the backyard a power saw and hoping they come back with all their fingers. Okay? Seriously. So just warning. Okay? Because it has happened. Didn't this happen in like last month? Some guy lost his stuff because he didn't renew, and then it blew up, and then he was down, and then we're like, hey, we told you to renew for the last 2 months, right? I'm pretty sure that's good. Didn't that happen?
I don't. There was one, I won't call it recently, but I think it was this spring.
Yeah, where somebody was down since Christmas.
Somebody was down for like three days or something, almost 4.
And we had warned them and told them, and they were like, we don't need that. And then, right? And then we're like, and then I was Friday night, we got the order in, and we're like, okay, we're going to send it to Claris. Claris wasn't going to even check the orders until Monday. Where's my license? Where's my license? Where's my license? Like, if you think it's important, don't let it elapse. Just saying. Warning.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. I will help with that. Jacob, we have other questions? What other questions we have?
Peter Gaines was the one I was going to, he's got a good question. Can I explain how the data API annual limit is calculated? Yeah, it's really easy. There's a number of gigabytes you get per seat per month. And then that's, yes, okay, 72 gigs per, no, that math does not add up. It's gigabytes per user per month. So I should probably know what the number of gigabytes is, but I don't. I suppose if I broke out my calculator and put 25 into 600 and then divided that by 12, I could tell you, but I'll let you guys operate your calculators. But that's how the cap is come up with. The way that it's like you get up to it or whatever, like how you use it. So on data API, we can look at ours. Here's all the details about it. So this host is this server. Obviously, we've sent nothing, but we do use the data API elsewhere on our same license, and this number is kept track of by Claris, not by us.
So
the usage gets known.
What did that start off at? It says, I guess 600. I'm confused. This number is smaller than this number. Oh, data transmitted.
Gigabytes, megabits.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, what the? Okay.
Different order of magnitude. Yeah.
So we still have 599.3, 2 or 3. Okay.
2.5. Yeah.
Well, you know where this data comes from, and we established it's not part of containers, right? Or is part of containers, right?
It doesn't count containers now.
Yeah. All right. If you go to this website, here's FM Training. You go to live right here. This text data is deducting, not the images, but the text data is deducting from this number over here. That's how that works. Ta-da! Right there.
So,
sexy.
Yeah. So anyway, data incoming, like requests to the data API, not counted. Data outgoing that is specifically container data, images, PDFs, whatever you're trying to do, also not counted. Record data, which is JSON, and it is not compressed, which annoys me, is counted. Specifically, the JSON record data that comes back from the data API. It's the only thing that's counted. So 600 gigabytes is frankly a lot. You would have to absolutely beat the ever-living heck out of it to think about getting anywhere near that, to be honest.
And you can add quite a bit more to this inexpensively, so it's not that big of a deal, right? So
yeah, yep. So it's not something I'm super worried about. So all right, so we covered most of the options here. We'll note if you need to change your admin console username or password, this is where you do it. Administration, administrator. External auth, which I'm not going to cover at all because I think they just covered that yesterday in some detail, although I was not watching the stream. But this is where you do stuff like that. Oh, no, that wasn't yesterday. That was the other 360works one. Where they
yesterday was
Microsoft sign-in.
Yes, yesterday was Zulu.
Zulu was yesterday.
Which is actually great because we use it. We love it. I love it.
Yep. We'll update at some point too. But yeah, and that's where you'd plug stuff like that in. So if you had Microsoft sign in, Google sign in, Amazon sign in to your FileMaker databases, that you would program that in there. I'm not going to cover that today. So this is the basics of setting it up. The only thing we haven't done is maybe a backup schedule, which we could set up. And I don't know, making a database live or something like that. We also have not really addressed like backups. So we'll have like a backup conversation. I'm not really going to show setting them up or whatever, but basically what I want you guys to know is you need to have backups. You need to have backups as many places as you can. You need to have as many backups as you can. And actually, as somebody found out recently, you should probably test your backups occasionally to make sure that they actually work.
Oh, yeah.
Which is to say, if for example, you've got one of those lovely systems, maybe RCC set it up for you, and you go in there and it zips up this old, there's an hourly backup of your database. We zip up a copy of it and shoot it off to 7 different places because we want to make sure there's enough backups. You want to grab every so often. You want to grab one of those and just open it in a zip application. Make sure it works. Open the database. Confirm the thing operates. You want to make sure that that's true because it's great if you have 17 copies of your data that aren't relevant. So
right, yeah. So let me put this in more perspective. So historically, there used to be a problem. I don't know, FileMaker 10, 11-ish time frame where it would actually be making backups, and the backups would be there, but the files were wrecked. They're wrecked files, right? Like when you're running a file and you pull the plug in the computer, it's crashed. That kind of wrecked. And so the problem is the backups on the server were saying, it's great, it's all good, totally great. We haven't seen that problem in probably 10 years. It popped up 3 or 4 days ago with a customer.
Yeah, I was going to say there was literally one at once.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's because the customer's got a little bit, they're probably here, maybe not, but a little bit of squirrely of a configuration where they're at and what they do. That being said, this may be more of a bug than not. So what we do on our end, we sit down one of our engineers. It's the engineer that we trust, but maybe doesn't have anything to do that day, and we say, open up all these servers and pop open and actually open the file and have it ask you for the username and credentials or something, right? The point is, if you can actually get it and it doesn't say, oh, attempting to consistency check because the file wasn't closed properly. You want to avoid, you don't want to see any of that kind of stuff, right? If it's zipped, you want to unzip it, make sure it opens up, and kind of verify that the backups are good. Does that make sense? So it's been rare. I have not seen this happen, and then out of the blue, we have one happen. What version of server were they running at the time? Do you know? Were they running?
The recent one? No, I don't remember.
Oh, with
I'm not sure.
The customer? Yeah. So they're probably on 18 or 19, I would guess.
Yeah, it was a recent version. But...
Yeah. Anyway, so that's how that works. So I would recommend every once in a while just doing that because that way, because you could have 1 million backups if they're all damaged and they're worthless, right?
That was what concerned that particular client, is because I was giving them the nth degree about, okay, but do your logs say that you're backing up and that, all this sort of stuff, because generally that process is trustworthy. So if there is an issue here, if there is in fact smoke, we need to determine whether or not there's fire. So that's the only time it's ever been seen, and we have nervousness for other reasons with the client, so we'll see. But
yeah. So if you have questions about renewing your subscription, either our training subscription or your FileMaker subscription, and you don't know where to start or what's going on or what your status is, just email support@RC Consulting. I put that in there on YouTube. That was for Sakari, right? I guess. Put that in there. I'll put it there as well. Just email support@RC Consulting. That's your general catch-all for that. Now, there was a question. Have we done a session on the command line tools for FileMaker Server? Jacob Taylor, that's a really good idea. The answer is no.
Yeah.
We haven't yet.
The answer is no.
The answer is no, but damn if that ain't a good idea, right?
Yeah, we could do that. Actually, what would we do? So we could start with FMS admin. That's a good one. FMDMT, I've used, data migration tool. We could do a demo of that, I think.
I'd have to be involved with that. I don't have the cycles for that one yet. But keeping it on server for the moment, because the data migration tool is an entire separate conversation. And we've covered that in our training pretty robustly.
That's maybe two different.
Well, do you want to? But about FileMaker Server, Mac and Windows command line, right? Because we're going to have an opening next week. Because guess what? You're not doing a Ubuntu install next week. Pretty sure.
Yes.
So
it would be news to me if I were doing it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's on the schedule because the unicorn of scheduling has scheduled it, and the unicorn's never wrong. So
work.
Yes. So maybe next week we could do that. And then the other one is that Christian Schritt from Monkey Bread, people are asking about, show us all the things you could do with a PDF, all the unnatural things you could do with a PDF with the Monkey Bread plugin. So do you folks, so PDFs seem to be generally pretty popular. People have a general request or suggestion for, interest in having PDFs with a plugin, things done to those? It's a kind of a buzz moment, so right? You have to have your buzzy tool out. You have to buzz if you like that. So Scott Kane, buzz, yes?
Yeah, it's not in here. I like that. Cool.
All right. So the answer is Christian Schmidt. I'm going to have Margaret reach out to you. We'll get you on the schedule. If you're actually even free next week, we need to probably book it into a spot next week because now there's this giant gaping spot where the unicorn died. So what are we doing? What are we doing over here, Jacob?
I'm adding the firewall rules. I went to test if I could connect to FileMaker Server, and I can't. And that's because one of the things that we didn't cover is that FileMaker Server, to this day, does not program in firewall rules for itself to allow itself through the firewall. And so often you will come out with a Windows FileMaker Server installation that nobody can talk to.
Okay, so that's what we're talking 5003, or what are we talking about?
Yes, yeah. We do the whole list just because 8443, 5003, and then we usually do 16,000, which is the admin console remotely. So we do next, we do allow, we do all of them. We name it FileMaker Server. And I'll do finish. And then now we should, where's my list? To refresh. How do I refresh? There we go. So now I should have there it is, FileMaker Server. That's what I was looking for. And so now if I go click, now I get the connection is not encrypted. Correct, because we didn't install an SSL certificate.
We're not seeing that on our screen over here, by the way.
Yes, can't bring it over because I have to undo this on Mac and then do silly things. So
don't worry about it. That's fine. So you're saying that by default on Amazon AWS, on Windows. On Windows, on Amazon EC2 or Windows at all.
FileMaker Server on Windows does not install a firewall rule that allows you to contact it by default.
And so by default on FileMaker or on Windows, it's Windows Server 2019. Everything's off by default. Is that what it is? All the ports and stuff.
Windows Server for a decade has had everything basically locked down by default. And if you don't, because everyone used to hack the heck out of it, it's not perfect. There's a bunch of stuff that's still on, but it's much less than it used to be. But basically, FileMaker Server has never included a rule at least of any of the versions I've ever worked with. So maybe there's some old version that did, but any version I've ever worked with, which is 14 forward, they've never included a rule in the server installer that allows itself through the firewall. You have to do that yourself. And so you'll often get a FileMaker Server installation and you're like, why can't I talk to it? It should just work. Everything, we installed it, we configured it, we rebooted the system, blah, blah, blah. I did all my things. No, you didn't allow it through the firewall. And if you didn't allow it through the Windows firewall particularly, you won't be able to talk to it. So.
All right, so I want to point out once again to Christian Schmidt at Monkey Bread, sending our scheduling person, Margaret, to you to schedule if you have a slot next week, because we have 2 holes that we have to plug. We'll try to do the command line conversation next week if you folks are up for that. So cool. And then Invitek says 2 gigabytes per month, isn't it? Yeah, I don't, off the top of my head, we never used enough data.
Yeah, two per user per month probably, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in that range. I don't want power and sleep settings. I never want power and sleep settings. I want PowerShell. It's not in the list.
What's PowerShell developer settings, right?
No. That's what we want. Okay. Command line. Difference between PowerShell and CMD on Windows, from your perspective, if you don't use PowerShell, the programming language, is nothing. But I use PowerShell, so I always open that one. Also, it'll like do tab completion and stuff like that. So, and then basically the main remaining stuff. So like we're glossing over some of the, like, set up the backups and stuff like that. That will basically, because I can't realistically cover like different offsite backup systems, except to say make sure you have enough and make sure that they work correctly and that you test them. Because especially if you're in Windows with RCC or something like that, we're going to set your server up automatically and it'll have backups out the butt. But if you're on site, for example, you're going to have your NAS, your storage array, your external hard drives, your your situation will be different in all scenarios. I don't think we have any on-site FileMaker Server users that like have the same setup, so I can't really talk except for in broad strokes. There are a few things though that you should be aware of that are not actually backup related at all, which is why this is what I put on screen. You want to make sure there's a couple settings that you can only set from the command line at this point. One of them is the cache size. If you don't change this, again, as a reminder for everybody, you're leaving performance on the table. FileMaker Server by default, it has an in-memory record cache, which is like people have accessed certain records in the database recently, modified certain records in the database recently, stuff like that. It keeps those in RAM on the server. It's much faster to load them from RAM to get them out to clients over the network when somebody asks for it, for example. The default is about 0.5 gig of RAM. If your database is under that size, maybe you don't care. If your database is over that size, you definitely care. And so you should set it at a little less than half of your total system memory. So this server is a T3X large that has 16 gigs of RAM. So 7500 would be about 7.5 gigs. Like I said, a little less than half. So
cool. Any final questions from people about
ask me.
yeah, questions about broadcast items here. So we've got looks like we're going to bring in Christian Schmidt next week for basically he needs to have questions and answerings and demos that would cover PDF stuff for several days. That would be good. Margaret, I don't know where we are in terms of getting it on the Claris website. It'll be a little tight for that, right? You could try.
I could try, but
yeah, we'll figure out which day is which, and then load JT's command line shenanigans on one day, and then Christian Schmidt's monkey bread on the other.
Oh yeah, we could do like a little FMS admin explore.
Yeah, we could be like, hey, Dora the Explorer. We're going to command line our way through Windows. It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
Okay, well, that'll be next week coming up because we're not going to be doing Ubuntu next week.
No.
We can't.
That would be too soon anyway. Just because even if they magically released it Monday or something, I need to play with it first. We need to see where the sharp edges are, or maybe they like buff everything and it comes out very reasonably.
They buff
cool.
it. Yeah, pretty buff it. It's like when someone crashes their car and say it'll buff right out, no problem.
Yeah, that's well, it's like when they first put out the CentOS versions, they had all kinds of sharp edges with the installer and a bunch of different qualifications and asterisks and whatever that to do this, that, and the other thing in a particular order and stuff like that. And so maybe they've gotten most of those issues worked out and so they bring it to Ubuntu and it won't be too bad. But I'm always going to be like, all right, hold on, let's wait and play with I'll play with it first and then see if those issues pop up or not. It was very instructive reading the the forum posts in advance of the like official, release to customers or whatever for the CentOS version of FileMaker Server, because it was all kinds of little sharp edges and stuff that people ran into and that they resolved.
My impression of 19.3 is that it has additional performance benefits and additional major bug fixes. So
I would say it's the opposite of a nerf.
I would say, yeah, I don't think nerf is on the radar anywhere for what they're doing, right? So
no, if it looks like half of what I'm expecting out of it, we're going to be shouting that that's the version you should be running fairly soon. So you'll hear that, and if you're already one of our customers, you'll probably get an email from me or one of my coworkers to get a new server, to get a fresh server, to get an upgraded server, whatever
great.
Makes sense for you.
Yep. So that's it for today, everyone. I greatly appreciate Jacob Taylor once again. If you have questions or comments about your FileMaker, if you need help with your FileMaker server, and you don't trust yourself to do it, and you have no one else to call, you can call Jacob. Send an email to support@rcconsulting.com. Right? Sound good?
Posted it. Yep.
That's pretty good. All right. Have a good one. Thanks, folks. Boop, boop, boop.
Just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.